Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Black Moon Lilith conjunct one's natal Mercury. Now, when we have transits that involve the Black Moon Lilith in astrology, they can manifest in a very negative manifestation of the zodiac sign it is in. It can reflect a very formidable and powerful adversary or open enemy. It could be matters with trauma, abuse, a void that one may have in one's life. Now, when we have transit Black Moon Lilith conjunct one's natal Mercury, well, it may be expressed in the negative manifestation of the sign formidable adversary, trauma, abuse, a void. It could be in the rational mind or rational thinking. It could be that maybe somebody has experienced something traumatic that might impact them thinking rationally, or it could be some powerful enemy that they've had to deal or contend with that may be causing this. If it's in the zodiac sign Capricorn, it could be a government or political figure or somebody in some strong position of authority. Could be a prominent authority figure in one's town. It could be something too where Mercury is connected with communication. There might be a feeling of a void in this at this time. It doesn't necessarily mean that when you have this transit you're going to lack communication ability, but you may feel there could be some kind of void, whether it could just simply be the amount of communication that you have in your life. It could be maybe there's a void in, for instance, say if it's in the zodiac sign Aquarius, like a void maybe in progressive thinking or thinking in an innovative manner. Mercury is also associated with learning and assimilating information. So it might be a situation that something, it could be some traumatic could happen that might be impacting your ability to absorb information. It could be a simple distraction or some kind of diversion. It might be a very strong enemy that you may be dealing with. And keep in mind, I mean, that Black Moon Lilith is also connected with what we don't want unveiled. It might have been some information that you may have received that you really you don't, that it's something that you feel is just best kept concealed and not something that you want to talk about. And if you have, like, say, a Gemini or third house dominant chart and you're somebody that's very loquacious, of course that could be something that could be easier said than done. And the thing about it is, this is also, I mean, remember that the Black Moon Lilith is connected with the negative manifestation of the sign it is in. Mercury is associated with siblings, cousins, and neighbors. So you might be seeing siblings, cousins, neighbors maybe expressing very negative or some kind of nefarious behavior that was really, to you, might be very unexpected. I mean, it's in Scorpio, it could be some kind of vindictive or vengeful behavior that might be being expressed at the time of this transit. The thing about this is to keep in mind Mercury is also connected with short journeys and local transportation. So it might be something where this could be where a void might be in one of these areas, this area in your life. At this time, it could be whether your own vehicle may go out of commission, or it could be some kind of injury that takes place that might restrict you from doing certain things as far as commuting locally. It might be a situation too where, I mean, keep in mind, this is the negative manifestation of the sign, so it could also be a situation too. This is anatomically speaking, this is connected with the hands, the arm. I mean, Mercury is associated with the hands, the arms, the nerves, the brain, breathing, lungs, even eyesight. And Black Moon Lilith is not just the negative manifestation of something, it can be about suffering and anguish one may go through. So there might be some difficulty with one or more of the things I just mentioned. And the fact that, I mean, this is something to where when you look at this as well, I mean, Mercury is about analysis. So the thing about it is, it might be, where when you look at this transit, uh, there might be a time, it might be something where maybe you're analyzing maybe a very powerful enemy or formidable adversary. It could be something traumatic that might have happened, occurred, and you might be trying to analyze you know, what 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 this is about. Why did this happen? Um, it could be your reaction to it. What you're trying to figure out. And the thing about this too is that also, and it could also be not wanting, when you look at this, Black Moon Lilith can be connected with what we don't want unveiled. So again, it could be something connected with the communication that one may have received. It might be something, even with thieves in some instances, not necessarily you, but an experience you may have had with one, but for some reason you don't really feel like divulging it. Now, the thing about this too is Mercury is also associated with mobility. So it could be just moving around. It might be something where you're keeping, again, going back to the fact Mercury is connected with short journeys and local transportation, may just be something that you're being more secretive about at this time. It could also be where you might be experiencing avoiding mobility, whether it's just walking around the home, maybe it's due to some kind of injury. Again, going back to zodiac sign Capricorn, it could be something with the knees or the bones, the joints, the hamstrings that may cause issues. Aquarius could be like the ankles or the shins. Maybe it causes difficulty in driving short journeys. Now, another thing too is that Mercury is also associated with our early education. So this could be somebody that might come into view that maybe was a strong enemy at that time, that maybe you've rekindled a connection with. Maybe the person is still holding a grudge from that time and is confronting you. It could be also too, again, that Mercury can be associated with thieves. And remember that the Black Moon Lilith is associated with nefarious energy, so it can be a time you need to really be careful if you're in a very corrupt area or it's a high crime area, especially like with robbery and burglary, just to be extra cautious at this point in time, more so than usual. Now, the thing about this transit, another way it can manifest is nefarious thinking. Say if it's an Aquarius as an example, it could be somebody may be trying to cause dissension in the astrological community. It could be hacking computers. It's another example. And the Black Moon Lilith is also associated with suppressed anger. So when you have this transit, it can be suppressed anger and one that was hard to unleash. It might be associated with local transportation issues. There might be some frustration or exasperation with that. It might be some issues with siblings, cousins, or neighbors at this time that you have to deal with, or it could be trying to, maybe you're getting inundated with information. It's a lot of information or a lot of writings and emails that has to be done that might be causing agitation, and it might be hard to let it out. Now, say if this is in Leo, for example, it can be some issue with maybe the pride or the ego, in terms of not, having issues with local transportation, and maybe it might even be due to extravagance as well. Now, not to be overly morbid or morose, but keep in mind the Black Moon Lilith is comparable to Plutonian energy. It can represent, Black Moon Lilith has a connection with death, and it can, in some instances, though isolated, perhaps the death of a sibling, a neighbor, a cousin. It could be someone that simply played an integral role in your early education, or a person that you see frequently in your short journeys if you're commuting to a local grocery store or what have you. Now, the Black Moon Lilith also can be associated with what may put a person in a strong state of fright or trepidation. Now, it could be something, it could simply be maybe communicating, it could be public speaking, for example. Hold on a moment, people. sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, it can be something, um, and let's say, the fact is, if you might be, I mean, say if this falls, um, an Aries in the second house as an example, it could be maybe, you know, so it could be something where it might be fear, maybe of speaking out or being outspoken about something of a monetary nature. Whether maybe someone may have taken something that you had. Maybe you're apprehensive about actually, saying something or about this, or it could simply be, maybe having your possessions. A thief taking your, possessions might simply be something, and it might put you in a state of trepidation. And if it's an Aries, maybe it's also the fear of a strong acrimonious outburst as a result of this. It can be something, another way this can manifest and pan out, it can also be something with, this is also, Black Moon Lilith can be associated with suffering and its darkness. It can be with the eyes, because Mercury is associated with art, eyesight. I have a prominent family member that has the Black Moon Lilith, at least in long conjunction to her natal sun in her natal chart. And the sun, of course, is associated with the left or the right eye, depending on gender. And she had claimed to have night blindness, and she has it in the zodiac sign Scorpio, which of course is associated with darkness. Now, sometimes this transit may manifest in some. It could be night blindness, I would think, or it could just be general suffering or some difficulty with the eyesight. Gemini, for example, perhaps double vision. And it could also be a time where you might be more fixated and obsessed on analyzing things. And say if it's in Scorpio in the 11th house as an example, it could be through some deep astrological analysis. And again, the Black Moon Lilith can also be associated with what we don't want unveiled. So it can be, in some cases, since Mercury, is connected with thinking, the rational mind. Some isolated cases, it might be something with a mental illness. It might be an issue with thieves. Say if it's in Gemini, it could be a bipolar disorder or some multiple personality disorder. What I want to close with is that, again, when we're talking about conjunctions in astrology, they could be neutral, they could be very intensifying and integrating, and they could have positive and negative aspects or elements to them. You can often have a combination of good and bad when you have conjunction transits, and a lot of it can, whether this manifests more positively or negatively, may be dependent and predicated on other aspects that this makes to points in your natal chart. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.